Greetings, friends and families. Blessed love to one and all. I read somewhere in the Revelations about a war that took place in heaven, resulting in the ouster of Satan and his cohorts from the heavens. I start this video with that quotation from the 12th chapter of Revelations and the 7th verse downwards, because it's very difficult for humans living on planet Earth to experience, to witness, or to know much about a war that took place in heaven. But this week I was reminded, or maybe last week, I was reminded of that situation when I learned more about the upheaval, a warlike atmosphere in Buckingham Palace, which result in the ousting of Prince Harry and his black wife, Meghan. In an explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey, the couple sat down to revealing just why it was impossible for them to remain in the royal family. So it reminded me of that war that takes place in heaven, because I grew up as a child with a certain amount of reverence for that royalty, and it's as though there is more reverence to it than to heaven and those who dwell there. Our leaders that have been elected by the population of their country and their countries, if I might say that, because I'm not referring to any specific country now, but we know, for example, that the Caribbean is by and large an archipelago of black nation states, as they like to call it. And all of these island states in the Caribbean, their leaders, their prime ministers, go to the polls, they are elected, and after being elected, it's as though the electors take second fiddle to the royal family of Britain. Because once elected, these leaders, from the prime minister to the others, have to take a sworn oath to the British royal family. Swear allegiance, almost worship. You could substitute that word for worship. The royal family. It says Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law. No allegiance is sworn to the people who vote them into office. Now, there are those who are even a little older than I am who never hear anything but an anthem, which is almost like a prayer to the Queen and her family. Now, that is very important, because I am speaking about black nations literally worshiping, paying allegiance to this family, the royal family. But lo and behold, you could say a renegade son of the family would have dared to venture into falling in love with a girl that is regarded as a black girl. Truth be told, when you look at her, you have not seen anything black in her, though. So she is what some call a half breed, because half her parent is black and the other half is white. But when you look at the hue of her complexion, you hardly see any melanin in it. So technically, she looks more white than she does black. But even though that is the situation, she faced racial discrimination in the royal family. She was not accepted. Life was made assiduously hard for her. I grew up on an island where I was told, proverbially, that if a person don't like you, they will give you a basket to carry water. And we know that basket cannot contain water because a basket is porous. And so the water just leak out as you put it in there. It's no way it can hold water. So just as how it is impossible for the basket to carry the water, it is impossible for a person that have some black blood running in the vein to find comfort, to find solace, to find peace in the British royal family. But that is a family to whom our leaders pay allegiance after being elected by us. And that is the family to whom my mother pay allegiance as a citizen in the country where she was born, and my father. That's the prayer, our prayerful anthem that they learn going to school and to church. And talking about going to church, in post-colonial societies, the Anglican Church, otherwise called the Church of England, is the national church of those nations. And when you think about it, I often ask myself, having learned some aspects of world history as it relates to the side of the world I originated, I ask myself time and again, and I've asked others too, how can a black man or woman be a member of the Church of England? The Church of England, or the Anglican Church, is the spiritual vehicle that was used to execute the slave trade. The most heinous crimes committed against the black race was done, and the leading weapon that was used in that slave trade was the Anglican Church. And so you have scores of black folks, especially the older generation, who are members of the Anglican Church. A church that, if you check its history, the Queen has a very high role in there in its modern existence. But that family, which the couple calls a firm or an institution, is adamantly against blacks in that family. And so we have to take stock and ask ourselves, what are we paying allegiance to? Who are we paying allegiance to? There is a God in the heavens, we are told. And our leaders pay less homage to that source than they do to the British royal family. And so they put their hands on the Bible, which is supposed to be the Word of God, and swear allegiance to the British royal family, the British monarchy. But it's quite interesting to note that the Bible on which they place their hands is also an Anglican book. The King James Version of the Bible is an Anglican book. It's an Anglican produced book as well. And so it's not surprising that they would place their hands on the Bible, which is the Anglican book, said to be the Word of God. And I'm not talking just about Genesis to Revelation and its Genesis. I am speaking of the fact that the King James Version of the Bible is Anglican produced, pretty much as the New World Translation of the Bible is a Jehovah's Witnesses production. So I am not talking much about the content of what is in there, but I'm saying our leaders place their hands on a Bible produced by the Anglican Church and swear allegiance to the British royal family, the Church of England, and pledge their allegiance. And now we know that after nearly 500 years of our enslavement by that family, we now hear from members of the family that a black person is not going to be tolerated in it. Can you imagine that the father is being asked, what is the hair of your child going to look like? And how will it reflect on the family? In other words, who dare you to go and fall in love with a black girl? Who dare you to fall in love with a girl who have black blood running in the veins? But then ask yourself, suppose that girl was really black. Suppose when you look at her, you could see melanin oozing from her skin. In other words, suppose she looked like me on her skin. You know? So if you look at Meghan Markle, as I've said, you can hardly see she's black. Somebody have to tell you she's black, because we know who half of her parent is. But if she is so much a half caste and is not accepted, what about those who are fully black, fully African? And ask yourself as well, what did Prince Harry know before he fell in love with this young lady? What did he know, or what did he not know? I've always heard people say that in the context of the family's tradition, he was like a rebel. I've always heard that he was so different from his other brother. So it was not surprising when he decided to love outside the orbit of the family's choice. He decided to fall in love with someone that have black blood running through her veins. And him trying to impose her on a family that obviously is not ready for that, then we are told that there is grave doubt if their children, their offspring, will ever be embraced by that family, such as by being given a title. You know? So, this is really a time of reckoning for us as a race, as much as it is a time of reckoning for the royal family. This is a family that has placed itself, as I have said, in time of reckoning number 6. This family has placed itself above the law. And so effectively it has placed itself above criticism. And so people find it very difficult to be critical of this family. because one, you are someone who pledge allegiance to them whether you know it or you don't know it. In other words, someone has sold you to that family once you were born in what they call the Commonwealth. You were sold to that family, wittingly or unwittingly. And let me say that there are a number of blacks, especially those who love the Anglican Church, who will put their life on the line that what that couple, Meghan and Harry, has revealed about the royal family, that is a lie. Because to them, the royal family, you could just simply push God one side and push the royal family in there for them. That's how they feel about it. Push slavery one side. You know, your forefathers, your foremothers, your foreparents, push them one side. All that matters is allegiance to the royal family. And that level of mental servitude is a pity. But unfortunately, it seems as though that sort of thing is phasing out. As the older generation make their transition to the other side, the younger generation that is coming up is having none of it. There are those of us who believe we have a divine right to sensitize our children about the hypocrisy, the crimes, and the wickedness of that royal family. My father was a very brilliant man, but he couldn't read. And a lot of my uncles were brilliant historians, but they couldn't read. All because of the wickedness of that family. When the royal family gave up the reins over Jamaica, schools were few and far between. Healthcare was extremely bad. Jamaica, for example, has over 50% illiteracy when that family take their hands from the throat of that nation. Because their concern wasn't the people. We were slaves as far as they're concerned. And in their minds still are and ever will be. You know? So there's so much cruelty that came out of their greed. And so with Meghan in their family, you crazy? Get out, girl. That's just what we're seeing. So judge for yourself where your loyalty lies. Let us ask our leaders, why do we in this 21st century continue to do the shameless thing of swearing allegiance to people who literally hate us? If you have not seen the full interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, well, you need to look at it. It's out there. It's out there. Members of the family sat down to perhaps the greatest interviewer in the world, Oprah Winfrey, who, when the slave trade took place, the British royal family never expected Oprah Winfrey to ever exist, never expected Meghan Markle to ever exist. These people were to be perpetual slaves. But life wouldn't have it so. Life would not have it. You have a Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey said that when they mistreat him, when they kill him, that there were many cubs in the fold. So today we have a Oprah Winfrey. Today we have a Meghan Markle. And the life of that young lady is interesting as well, because she has fought against racism all her life. When she was going to school in a white supremacist North American country, the whites wouldn't accept her, and she had a problem with the blacks as well. And I say she had a problem with the blacks, not she personally, but she did not find ready acceptance in the black family as well. You know, because the blacks see her as white and the whites see her as black. So she was just caught like in the crossfire. So that's a girl whose the point of her perception is sharpened by her experience as a half-breed child. And there are many half breeds that are accepted as blacks that have gone through the fire. So she is a classic example of someone whose perception is very sharp, and having gone through that level of unacceptance among whites in the US, now gone into this family with very sharp perception. Any thought of treating her with this otherness attitude would be quickly picked up, quickly identified. The young lady said she was brought to the point where she didn't want to live anymore. She was brought to the point of contemplation of suicide. Can you imagine that? In a family that is held so high? Can you imagine? So let us wake up, folks, and understand what we're up against. Let us wake up and start to think as we ought to think. Let us get back to our roots and to understand that as a people, we came from greatness. We came from greatness much greater than anything the British royal family look like today or stands for. And we can get back there if we want to. But our leaders also need to wake up. But our leaders are elected by us. And we need to start electing leaders who think like us so that we can be guided, we can be led to a place where anyone like a Meghan can be comfortable in her royalty and not be viewed as a slave girl. You can't be here. You are not our equal. We know the thinking. Don't think we don't know. We know it. We know it. We lived it. Our ancestors lived it. So let us wake up, folks. Thank you so much for joining me again on this journey. It's a time indeed of reckoning. And this time of reckoning continues to unfold. And we look with great delight at some aspects of it and with great regrets at others. So I encourage you again to share this information. And we need to start thinking. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do so. And we look forward to another video together. Until then, so long. Bless.